All right, welcome back to another episode of Paper Movies, a novelization book club. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Today we'll be discussing the novelization to Batman, the Tim Burton film from 1989. The novelization is by Craig Shaw Gardner, based on the story by Sam Hamm, and the screenplay by Sam Hamm and Warren Skaaren. I'm the host for this month. I'm Adam, and joining me, as always, are my co-hosts. We have Matthew from the Geek Static. We have Jeremy from Stupid Shane Shaw Productions. Sorry, Matthew, didn't mean to. And today I'd like to introduce our special guest. He's an old friend of mine. We also used to work together. We have Tanner from the Scarlet Writers Geek Corner. Tanner, thank you all so much for joining today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right. So, Batman from 1989. This takes place at the beginning of Batman's career. He's been kind of operating as Batman for about a month now. And during a mob raid on a chemical plant, one of the mobsters who tries to shoot Batman, it backfires, disfigures his face, knocks him into a vat of acid, and now we have the Joker. So, guys, overall thoughts. What did you guys think of this book?
Who would like to take it first?
Let's have Tanner take it. Let the guests go first.
Oh, wow. No pressure. Okay. So, oh, God. How long has it been since I've seen Batman 89? I think the last time I watched it was like 2013, something ridiculous.
That's about the same time I saw it last, too.
Oh, okay. Well, then at least we're on equal footing now. I liked it. I don't read movie novelizations as much as you guys do, obviously, so I probably don't have anything real grand to add to the conversation. I thought the writing was fairly solid. There were some scenes that obviously weren't in the movie. I think that, kind of getting into spoiler territory, but there was one scene they took out towards the climax that I'm like, okay, they definitely... that was in the movie, and then they didn't put it in the novelization. So I don't know if, like I said, I'm not an expert on how the novelization process goes. So I don't know if maybe he just decided to take that out of the final draft of the book, or that was something added in the movie later. But other than that, I thought the climax flowed fairly well. Felt like I was watching... I can't say I felt like I was watching the movie, but it made me want to go back and watch Batman 89. So,
all right,
I enjoyed it.
Nice. Jeremy, what did you think?
Okay, so this is like the perfect length for a movie novelization, because these days we've read, let's see, King of the Monsters was too long, The Predator was really too long, and Halloween was too long. Halloween 2018. They're all like... Well, The Predator's a piece of trash. But I'll use Halloween. Halloween's borderline like a really good novel, but it's too long. It's very drawn out. This adds scenes in what I'm assuming what Tanner was getting at is like this is based off of probably an earlier draft, and then they changed things up when they film. That's typically how these things went until Disney took over Star Wars, and then they're written 3 months later. But these things, with this book, I have a complaint. And it's the same complaint I have. I'm going to go back to Star Wars here. I'm very sorry. With Matthew Stover's novel of Revenge of the Sith, where repeating things. I don't like repetition in books. There's a fine line for when it's good and then when it's really obnoxious. And this went to the really obnoxious territory. The whole line of, have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? Is repeated throughout. And it reminded me of what I hate in Matthew Stover's novel, Revenge of the Sith, where he'd be like, this is Anakin, now. And he'd do it like every 5 chapters, and it's really obnoxious and pretentious, and that started happening here. Also, Batman, in the climax, he keeps going back to when his parents were murdered. That was a little much.
Yeah.
But I will say, I like certain things better in this than I do in the movie.
Yeah, on that repetition note, we also had the Joker's music always saying "Boom Shakalaka."
I laughed, so like I wasn't gonna include that because that's so goofy. But they didn't know what the score was gonna be like because Danny Elfman literally didn't know until he went on set, and then he wrote the score in an airplane on the way back to America.
And I'm sure they also didn't know that Prince was going to be providing some of the songs on the soundtrack. So
right. But I love when Joker's like, "Oh, good old Bob."
Yes.
Oh yeah, good old Bob.
Yes.
Which is that's something I do like is that who wrote this again? This is Craig Shaw Gardner. Never read a book of his, but he really brings out the crazy in Joker.
Yes.
But keeps it original.
Right.
Which is something that the modern DC comics lack these days. They kind of go with.
No, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
They kind of go with the whole Alan Moore crazy Joker these days because that's an awesome Joker and it's great to emulate. Granted, I'm a few years out of comics at this point. Tanner seems to be more the expert than I. No. Let's not Adam. Adam just hangs up posters. He's never actually seen a Batman movie. I don't know if you know this or not.
Well, guilty. Yeah.
He couldn't find 89 Batman, so he watched all the clips on YouTube.
Matthew, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I thought the book was decent. I agree with Jeremy completely. Like the length was perfect. I love how the chapters were short. So it's like I'm going to read a quick chapter. I don't have much time, but for maybe 10 minutes you can squeeze out a chapter, maybe even less. So it made it easy to dissect the book up into different days or throughout the day. Like I'm going to sit down and read a little bit here and there.
It was can I jump in for a second, Matthew, on this? It was the perfect book to read on your 15-minute break.
Yeah.
Get through a chapter, be like, and get through a couple on your lunch, your half-hour lunch, then be like, oh, I can get through another chapter of my next 15. That's how I read this book for the most part.
Yeah, and that's good. I mean, it'd be nice if more novelizations were like that. Because you said all of the other things just get way too out of hand, and they add so much.
I mean, nothing tops X-Men 2. That thing's like 800 pages.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, this thing's only 225. Like you said, too, with the repetition of things. Like, towards the end, it felt like it got lazier towards the end.
Yes.
Some of the descriptions just seemed like they were lacking. It jumped around real quick, and I'm like, what's going on now? And it's been a long time since I saw the movie. I started watching it not too long ago, then I just stopped. I didn't finish it. It was always my favorite Batman, but I stopped at a point where like it was getting intense in the book too, and everything that happens that I read, I don't remember from the film for quite a while. And I don't know if that's just me misremembering the film or if the book changed that much more of the story. But overall, it was a decent book. I thought it got silly with the story later on as Joker's like, going to this festival or parade with the gas coming out of the balloons. It just got silly. It's like, oh, I want to rule this city by killing everybody?
I mean,
we never got his intentions.
Fair.
He wanted a war, but what about the war? What was his goal?
He's a crazy person. That's his whole thing. He's just gone insane.
Yeah, the Joker has always, normally been the one to just kill people just to laugh about it, just because.
I mean, spoilers, he killed good old Bob.
Good old Bob. And I do like how that was repeated all the time. It was like every time it mentioned Bob, it would say, Bob, good old Bob.
Good old
it's
Bob.
Like, he's just the right-hand man. He's the guy that you want on your side. And he's like, hey, somebody, I can't remember what the exact line was, but he's like, is somebody going to get the Batman? He just turns and shoots Bob. Good old Bob.
I know, I wish that was how the chapter went. Like chapter so and so, like Bob, good old Bob. I shot Bob.
I shot Bob.
Literally, Bob falls off the float, and he's like, "Oh, good old Bob."
Here, I'm gonna shoot you real quick. Okay, thanks, Bob.
And I think that's when he turns to somebody else. He's like, okay, would somebody go get me the Batman or something like that along those lines?
Yeah, but I thought the book was well written. I thought Craig Shaw Gardner did a very good job. And like Matthew, like what you said, the chapters are very short, and I like that. I don't like chapters that are either really short or like 30 pages long. But it kept the pace at a very consistent level. But yes, like as you guys said, there was a lot of repetition and a lot of silliness here and there. But like overall, I thought it was well written and it was a pretty easy read. But I do want to ask, and I'm going to start with Tanner. How well did you think the author like captured the tone of the film?
Well, I'm probably the wrong person to ask because it's been like, God, what, almost 8 years since I've seen the movie. From what I remember, it was almost one for one, minus a few things they took out here and there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the overall feel was there as far as the how he described Gotham as being. God, I was trying to remember the reference from Star Wars, but
Grungy.
a hive of scum and villainy.
Yeah, there you go.
I thought he described that pretty well. Other than that, I mean, I can't really say how close it is to the film, despite having not seen it in so long. So there's my filthy casual take.
Okay. Awesome. Jeremy, what did you think?
The tone's there. It's absolutely there. The stylization, not so much, but that's really hard. It's a Tim Burton film in the heyday of Tim Burton films, before his movies started looking like puke. Like, it's just, like, I didn't expect it. I didn't expect much, to be completely honest. This is the second time we've had a superhero book, and I've underjudged it. Because when we read Spider-Man back in November, I was dreading that. I was like, ooh, eesh, this looks a little long. But I love that, and I did enjoy this. I will say, Batman wasn't my favorite character in this, though.
I'm gonna add to something about that later on, but yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Vicky Vale, really, in a lot of ways, she kind of becomes the protagonist a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the thing is, and I don't know if I just didn't catch on to it. They don't really. It's not till like the last quarter of the book where the author finally says, like, Bruce Wayne, Batman, same person. There's this somewhat ambiguity, and I was trying to read this like I had never read a Batman thing before, and like there's hints at it, obviously, but like if let's say a dumb person, like someone dumber than me, because I'm pretty dumb here, read this and they'd be like, wait, Bruce Wayne wears a cape? Does that mean he's Batman?
I thought it was Knox.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, more on that in the Matthew, how well did you think Gardner captured the tone of the film?
I thought he did pretty good. There's some things that are hard to capture in a book that you can't capture on screen, just vice versa too as well. I mean, like from what I remember with the film, there was when the Batwing shows up. I think that's what it's called, right? The Batwing, his plane.
Yeah.
It looks better on film. In the book, I think if I remember correctly, it was just like, oh, and then Batman's in his plane, and you're like, what? It just doesn't come across the same as when you see it on film, like, oh, Batman's got a plane, what? Rather than Batman's flying his plane. It just seemed a little cheesy to me. But, I mean, overall, it was all fantastic. He captured a lot of the stuff. The whole scene with the museum when the Joker comes in, when Vicky Vale's waiting around for Bruce Wayne, who she thinks is going to show up, I thought that was captured very well.
Yeah, I thought Gardner did very well at capturing the tone. Like when I read this, I basically am like picturing the movie, going through my head, save for a few things, and kind of going on what Jeremy was saying a minute ago. I I kind of wanted Batman to shut up because I hated all of these cheesy lines that he had from time to time where he'd be like calling someone rat breath or something like that.
that was.
And and I was also like, at one point he was like they took out the "I'm Batman" and they said "I am the Knight." I'm just like, no, you're Batman. Say you're Batman right now, But overall, yes, agreeing with Jeremy, the tone is there. He captured the scenes very well. But there were, as we pointed out a little bit earlier, scenes that were not either slightly altered or not in the film at all. And I was wanting to talk about those next. I'll go ahead and start. There's one, the date night between Vicky Vale and Bruce Wayne at Wayne Manor, that awkward dinner where they're like 20 feet apart.
Yes.
And there's also that I honestly did not care for that scene, the horseback riding scene, as much, because I'm like, I kind of like the awkwardness of that scene. I thought it was always kind of like, yeah, this guy's a multimillionaire, but he's also just a person. But there was one scene where Batman was chasing the Joker, like jumping from rooftop to rooftop, like in broad daylight. He was still in his suit and he was like wearing a ski mask and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he's chasing the Joker's car on horseback. I actually love that scene, and I wish that they included that. And I know that there was like a deleted scene, like a deleted what's the word I'm thinking of, where they do the sketches of the scene.
Storyboards.
Storyboards, yes, thank you. There was one where they were actually going to make that like Robin's origin, like where the Joker. And I think like you can find it on YouTube, and like Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill are voicing Batman and the Joker, but they were going to make it to where the Flying Graysons were like performing at the festival, and the Joker like crashes into their little their poles, and it kills Robin's parents. And I was like, that kind of would have been a cool thing to add in the film. They didn't mention it in the book,
Mm-hmm.
but for that scene in general, like where Batman's just chasing the Joker like on horseback, I thought that was a great, and I wish they added that in the film.
Instead, we had Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face acting as the Joker, setting up a gigantic comical bomb that killed the Flying Graysons.
Yeah. But as far as like things that were slightly different or different altogether, Matthew, like, were there like any favorites or least favorites?
I wouldn't say if there's a favorite. The one that stuck out to me the most was the scene where Bruce Wayne, when he's going over to Vicky's apartment to confess, like, oh, I'm the Batman. He shows up and he's got like equipment with him in like a shoulder bag. And whenever the Joker shows up in the film, I think Bruce Wayne is like in Vicky's bedroom or bathroom or something, and he finds a metal plate. It might just be in a living room. He like slips it under his shirt, and he gets shot, and it hits the metal plate. In the book, they're like in the kitchen, and they think a bomb has been delivered. And he's about to deactivate it, and when a hand pops up with the roses, and when the guys take Vicky away, Joker, he says his favorite line, and then he shoots Bruce in the kitchen, but he's fine. The bullet kind of grazes him and hits one of his a piece of Batman equipment, so he's fine. But in the film, we got that he shot him, and then Vicky comes back, and like he's gone. So that was the biggest thing that stuck out to me that was different.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and there's the you want to get nuts, let's get nuts.
I was just about to say that. I was just like
my favorite line. I love that line.
Jeremy, what do you think about the differences in the book?
So it's been so long since I saw this, I was having a hard time remembering. So I think it's fine. Like I think I've said this before with other things. Certain things transfer better to the page than they do to film. So there's a necessity sometimes to just change things for the sake of the story flowing, depending on what the medium is.
Okay.
Can I add something? Can I add something to mine? There's one.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we kind of mentioned it earlier with the music. The boombox was just constantly playing the same piece of music, the boom shakalaka, and I think it's said in multiple times like, oh, and then rock music was blasting, and it's boom shaka laka. You're like, that's not rock.
Can you imagine that? Like Van Halen?
Yeah, just boom shaka laka. Each time, I thought that was funny. That clearly they knew that, like, okay, well, just put this in there because we don't know what we're doing with the music yet. We just know that there's a boombox blasting music. So yeah, I just thought that was comical too. The rock music, boom shakalaka.
Real quick, I was wanting to add this real quick. I like that this book actually explains some plot holes from the film. Like, that scene where Batman's driving Vicky Vale to the Batcave, and she's just like, "Where are we going?" I'm like, "Well, you can see out the window, can't you?" But they do explain that Batman is actually blackening out those windows somehow, and that people can't see. And also, just like, where did the Joker get like 20 million in cash? And like, we find out it's fake money.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, in terms of alternate scenes, there was one that I thought was kind of funny where after, the spoiler, if you haven't seen the movie or read it, but the Joker dies, he falls off the cathedral, and, Batman and Vicky Vale, lower themselves to the ground, and they're like, uh-oh, here comes the police. And so Batman just takes off his mask and cape and throws it on Knox and just, hauls tail out of there. And like they make this whole gag out of just like, we just want to say Mr. Knox is not Batman. And then he says like, well, Batman's not me. So, but Tanner, was there any difference? Like, I know you said that you've seen the film quite a long time ago, but like, was there anything that like stuck out to you that was different?
Yeah. Oh God, I could be completely embarrassing myself here, but what wasn't the climax of the film where the Joker says, "You created me because I fell into those chemicals," and then Batman realizes who he is and says, "What was it?"
Oh, was it like he says, "You ever dance with the devil, the pale moonlight?" And he remembers that was like what the Joker said to Sam after he killed his parents. Yeah.
Well, yeah, they nailed that into my head about 30 times towards the end of the book, but I meant like the scene in the movie where, oh God, it's in the climax, but it's
When Batman admits to Joker that Joker murdered his parents.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that was not
that's
there, and
there, but he figures that out in the apartment scene before he gets shot in the film.
Okay. Yeah, see what I'm saying? I haven't seen the movie in about 8 years. I probably should have rewatched it before I came on here, but
Because we get the best rendition of the Waynes being murdered on film ever. It's so stylized and looks so nice. In Batman versus Superman, they kind of just gloss over it.
Martha!
To the point, like, why would you just put this in the film at all? There's no purpose in here anymore. We've seen Batman's origin twice now.
well, that was setting it for the plot twist towards the end of Batman v Superman.
Oh God, yeah, the Martha. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, no, I'd forgotten that.
Greatest plot twist in the history of cinema.
So, what was y'all's favorite and least favorite parts of this book? For me, my favorite, like I said, was the rooftop chase scene through the festival and everything. But my least favorite was, Batman being kind of over chatty. Like, like he was a typical superhero with like, the witty one-liners and everything. But I didn't really like that. But Matthew, least favorite moments?
My least favorite would probably be the extended date scene. That was kind of lame. I did like the scene in the film much better. It's like me and my sister, actually. We used to reenact that moment in the movie all the time. We'd go sit at the dining room table. Like, can you pass the salt? What? Can you pass the salt when you get up? Like, that was something that we always reenacted all the time growing up. So I prefer that over the book's horseback riding nonsense. My favorite moments in the book? Geez, that's tough. Maybe when he becomes the Joker, he goes after he falls into the vat of acid. He goes to his underground surgeon who fixes his face, and he's just like kind of laughing about it. He's like, this is a joke. This is just the punchline of a joke. I liked that. That was pretty cool. I thought that was pretty creepy too.
Jeremy?
I mean, I already talked about my least favorite part, the repetitiveness with certain things. Favorite part? Ooh, I don't know. I like that Batman was nice to the police officers that were climbing over the Batmobile's shields by accelerating slowly so they could fall off. That gave me a little chuckle. Like, oh, that's so nice. It just reminded me of Batman Arkham Knight, when you can literally run over people, but there's like a barrier so they don't die, even though they fall on their heads.
Well, he knew their healthcare plan would cover him, so.
I was gonna wonder if like when Bruce Wayne did that in the book, he was just like, okay, writing a check to this person, you know.
Which then leads. Can I throw one more thing in there before I forget?
Yeah, go for it.
The coffee situation was like the whole police force. They're drugged by the coffee from their work. Was that in the film? Like all the police officers were falling asleep because the coffee was drugged at the police stations.
I don't remember that from the film, no.
Doesn't stick out to me.
That was kind of cheesy. But anyway, sorry.
I mean, the whole beauty products that horribly mutilate people is also goofy, but like it's just classic, you know?
Yeah.
It's not the Joker taking a bunch of money and throwing it in a pile and lighting it on fire. You know, that's modern Joker.
Right.
Yeah, I did like the like they were trying to attempt to capture the same like humor that Jack Nicholson was like reading these lines. Like I believe it's still mentioned in the book. Like, and hair color so natural, only your Undertaker knows for sure.
Yeah.
But Tanner, least favorite moments?
Okay, so I think my least favorite moment was probably the beginning of the first chapter. I felt like it dragged a little too long to just kind of get to the point. And like you said, the one-liners with Batman. Another least favorite moment was probably towards the end in the climax where he's climbing the cathedral, the stairs to get to the Joker and Vicky, and it keeps emphasizing how much pain he's in. It's like, okay, we get it. Again, it goes back to the repetitiveness. I think my favorite part would be the climax because I felt like what's his name? Craig Shaw Gardner did a good job painting the picture of how it went fairly. Oh God.
I know you're. Yeah, I get you,
man.
man.
I get it too. Yeah, the whole.
It was very descriptive. Very descriptive.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, you could go into like the horseback riding scene. That was probably the most boring chapter for me. I was just sitting there reading that chapter, going, okay, how many more pages do I have until the next one? Yeah, okay.
Am I the only one who liked that? I thought it was fine.
The
I mean, I didn't think there was anything wrong with it in principle. It was just
okay, fair
not interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a break from the action.
It wasn't a pass the salt moment, you know?
No, that's true. That would have been great to read.
Yeah.
That might have been an ad-lib thing because they couldn't get horses that day.
Could be. So how do we fill this gap in?
It's like, that'd be kind of ironic too. Just like, wait, a billionaire doesn't have horses? Like, we can't explain that. All right. Well, would you guys recommend this book to someone who hasn't seen the film or read the novelization, or would you recommend it at all? Matthew?
I would. I mean, it's a fine book. It's got a good beginning, middle, and an end. There are some things that we talked about that were a little bit silly, the repetitiveness and all that stuff. The only thing that's going to be lacking really is the soundtrack. I mean, of course, you got great soundtrack by Danny Elfman. Right?
Yeah.
He's the Batman score from that is my favorite Batman score.
It's my favorite score of all time.
Oh, well,
you like that over Batman Returns?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm more of a Batman Returns. It's the one thing I think that's better between the two films is the score.
Huh.
Don't get me wrong.
I can't recall the Batman Returns score.
I like the Batman Returns score. I really do. But I just I don't know. I just kind of feel like the music for this film, just really, hits,
Oh yeah, these are definitely Danny Elfman's best two scores.
Yeah. But yeah, I recommend the book. Just say recommend it over the movie. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of iconic moments from the film. We got the coolest, in my opinion, the coolest Batmobile from any movie in this film. It's my favorite Batman logo, which I discovered recently by looking at the pictures on the book, that the Batman logo on the back here, the one that's that you remember the most, is different than the one that's actually on his chest. I never noticed that until I read the book, which I prefer the logo on the back of the book.
My God, you're right.
I like this one better.
Yeah, I'd never seen that before. Never noticed it. But yeah, I do. And after you guys say your thoughts, I have one little thing I'd like to include or ask.
Oh, okay, yeah. Tanner?
Yeah, I think if you like Batman '89, you owe it to yourself to both watch the movie and read the book, personally, because I think the book has some stuff in it that's not in the movie, and if you're wanting a different perspective, or just some, like you said, some explanations on some plot holes, like the Batmobile windows, or even just what's going on in the Joker's head, I it fills those in. So whether you want to watch the movie first or the book, read the book first, I don't know. That's, your mileage may vary on that one, but I'd recommend it.
Okay. Jeremy?
I think this is a great starter novel for anyone who's going to start reading movie novelizations, because the pacing's great, and it's not a long, drawn-out book. Like, I wanted to say Bloodshot, but we haven't read that. It just looks tedious when I see it at Barnes & Noble.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because this was actually the first movie novelization that I read, and my first book review on YouTube. So
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah. And so it's funny that you mentioned that. Yeah, it definitely is a good starter for if you want to read movie novelizations. But anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off, Jeremy. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. That's good. Just backing my point up. But yeah, no, it's not Bloodshot. It's definitely not The Predator. I can't stress this enough. This is like the reverse.
It's compact. You can get through it quick. It's got subtle differences. A lot of it's the same. So yeah, the perfect blend for a novelization.
I do have to make one point, Matthew, real quick. If you're ever wanting to read this book, if you come across the audiobook, it's not the same. People say it's unabridged. It's not.
No.
It says you could finish the book in about an hour and a half. No, this took this will literally take you probably 3 or 4 hours to get through, even that. But so just wanted to point that out there. If you find the audiobook, it is abridged. It is not unabridged. But anyway, I'm sorry, Matthew. What were you wanting to say?
Good. That's all. Did you recommend that people get this book?
Yeah, I recommend people get it. This is the first movie novelization I've read in probably 10 years. So yeah, I think it's the perfect length. I wasn't intimidated when I took it out of the envelope when I received it.
So that brings an interesting question. Now that you've this is the first one you say in about 10 years. Do you think after reading this, you have a little bit more interest in diving back into reading novelizations more?
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There we go.
We're bringing you into our world.
Yeah, we just need to get everyone in here,
Yeah.
They need to start reprinting classics like this.
Yeah, even if they put them in ebook format. I mean, bring them back.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that just wraps it up. So before we conclude, what grade or ranking would you guys give this book? I'll go ahead and start. I believe I reviewed it, I gave it an A. So Tanner, what grade or ranking would you give this book?
A-.
Okay. Jeremy?
Oh, you don't want Matthew to go first with the normal grade?
Okay, Matthew.
I'm going to give it, I'd say a B+ or 3.5 out of 5.
Okay. All right.
I'd give it a 4.135 out out of 5.
I feel so average right now.
I was about to say, did I catch a 9er in there? Or
Is it because of Bob? Is that what happened? Good old
Yeah,
Bob.
good old Bob.
You know he got that last digit for good old Bob.
Yeah.
Good old Bob.
So I had one question that I wanted to ask you guys about who your favorite character was in this story. Can we go over that before we conclude?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adam, who was your favorite character in this book?
I'll still say Batman, even though that he was like, I didn't like the one-liners. Like Batman without the one-liners.
Okay. Tanner?
Well, I'd like to say Batman, even though it sort of feels like he's the protagonist, but then not really. It's like you said, Vicky feels more like the protagonist in this book, so I'd have to say it's either a toss-up between her or the Joker. And I'm not like one of those edgelords that are like, oh, I love the Agent of Chaos. I just think that the way he described...
Right. Well, that's the thing, too, is like why I say like, who's your favorite character, because you get more inside the minds inside the book, so it's like, different perspectives than you get in the film. Jeremy?
It's the perfect description. No, it's a toss-up between Vicky Vale and Allie Knox.
That's mine right there is Knox. I really liked Knox. It's like you're just your average Joe who's just trying to do his job and people are picking on him. He tries to get the girl and she's like, no.
No, I didn't get the girl.
So like he does it. You think in the end like, oh, he actually gets the girl in the end, but no, he's just he risks his life. He does all he can. He's trying to get her boosted up in her career, and she just runs off with the millionaire. And
I know, and it's like I kind of wish there would be a gag. Yeah. I kind of wish there would have been a gag that Knox would have been like, Wayne,
I'll get you, Wayne.
But I would give it. Yeah, I still would give it an A and recommend it, and or a 4.6753099.9er, like what Jeremy gave it or something,
I couldn't even tell you what I gave it at this point.
But
good old Jeremy.
But yeah, good old Jeremy. I still think that needs to be a chapter in the book, like good old Bob. Yeah. I shot Bob. Don't be like Bob,
Yeah. All the other chapters
if this was written by Stephen King, he would do that. Like, he literally had a chapter in one of the Dark Tower books that said the plane landed.
Or the Gremlins thing with he forgot.
Oh God, that's right.
Yeah, you got to leave all the other chapters though as they are. Chapter 1, 2, 7, and then when it comes to the chapter that Bob dies, just call it "Good Old Bob." And then you get to chapter 19. You know what I mean?
It'd be like the Chuck Wendig Aftermath book where it's just an interlude.
Yeah.
It was only 2 days to retirement.
All right, guys. Well, that is going to conclude this month's podcast, guys. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Be sure to go find Matthew at the Geek Static, Jeremy at Stupid Chainsaw Productions. You can find me at Bryant VRM. And Tanner, thank you so much again for being our guest star today. And everybody, please go check out Tanner's channel. We'll post a link to it in the description. It's the Scarlet Writers Geek Corner. Tanner, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for being
thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, thank you all so much. And, before we go, we're going to go ahead and announce, I'm going to go ahead and grab it here, what the pick for both March and April is going to be. We will be reviewing the novelizations to Ghostbusters 1 and 2. So for March, we'll be discussing Ghostbusters, and for April, we'll be discussing Ghostbusters 2. So be sure to check those out whenever, and we'll, of course, post updates regarding that on the Facebook page and such. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us again today, and be sure to hit that subscribe button, and have a great day.
Stay Gucci.
Yeah.
See ya.